All right, folks, welcome back to the show. It is segment number 3 of this week's broadcast presentation of HMW Sports Talk Live. I'm Craig Shelton. I'm the founder of HoustonMediaWatch.com. That is where I live. That's where Angelo Lawford lives. That's where Richard Walker lives. That's where Lamont Mann lives. Jermaine Every, Mike and Derry Asher. We all live in this little cave called HMW. We have nothing to do there because fire hasn't been invented yet in our bizarro world. So we just sit there and we blog about sports and we blog about the media. The big story this week, and we'll all have simultaneous blogs being released Monday morning talking about this big black guy named Bubba running around the Masters, swinging his wood all over the greens. Just check it out, HoustonMediaWatch.com. Wonderful blog. I'm telling you, you'll love it. Okay, when we left you folks, our last segment, we talked a lot about Michael O. Smith because he's awesome, and we talked a lot about Johnny Manziel. Not just Johnny Manziel, but about Blake Bortles and about Zach Mettenberger. And when we started to talk about Derek Carr, what we're talking about, folks, is the what-ifs for the Texans. They could trade back, obviously. They could use the first pick on a quarterback or a defensive end. They could trade in other rounds, and they already have 11 picks with you when you add the 3 compensatory picks and the Matt Schaub pick they got from Oakland, which is a 6th-round pick. So there's a lot of possibilities for what Bill O'Brien and Rick Smith and the Brain Trust and will do, decisions that they will make out of the war room for the Texans on May 8th. So what we did, we took it to social media, and that's where Michael O. Smith lives, in social media. Michael did not make an appearance on this particular post, and we appreciate that very much. Only smart people contributed to this. Here's a question that we put out on Facebook. Which of the top 3 of the 2014 NFL Draft quarterback prospects likely would be able to weather the storm of starting a season 0-4? So what if the Texans were to come out the gate 0-4 and your starting quarterback is Johnny Manziel or Blake Bortles or Teddy Bridgewater? Which of these 3 guys as a rookie starter would be able to mentally come back without losing his confidence? Blake Bortles, Teddy Bridgewater, or Johnny Manziel? Before we start reading the comments on the Facebook group pages, I'll get Angelo Lawford's thought on that question.
Well, that's a pretty interesting question, and honestly, I don't know, but I will tell you that I think the quarterback that can maybe answer that question before they're 4-0, even before they're drafted, is Teddy Bridgewater. And the reason why I say that is this: he had adversity. He didn't have a necessarily solid pro day. And I think that could do a lot for his psyche, how he responds to that by way of meetings, by way of the goings and showings that when he went to New England, how he does when he will come to Houston, and how he can respond and recover from that particular day where, everything's set up to succeed. And on that day, he didn't necessarily succeed on his pro day. So I think that he could actually kind of answer it. Does he have the moxie? Does he have the mental capacity to recover from a bit of a failure? And so that's who I would like to see respond and see how that happens.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater is a tough kid physically. We know that.
Right.
I kind of laugh a little bit when people talk about the size and the concerns with that. And but in the same sentence, they talk about how smart he is, and some even refer to the guy as a savant,
right,
in regard to how he approaches the game.
And ironically, he had the lowest out of all the Wonderlic scores.
And that's some irony in that.
Right.
But yet, this is a guy that just goes to show you, I guess, the argument we were making earlier.
Yeah, it's not a perfect science.
It's not a perfect science.
Right.
But he's probably less likely of a guy to hold on to the football too long and find himself in situations where you wouldn't want a guy to be. I'm gonna hold back on my thoughts on it and let you know what my thought is on which one of these 3 guys. But when we go to Facebook, Rod Dorsey from the Facebook group Texans Buzz. This is a Facebook group that I was added to over the last couple of weeks, and I appreciate those folks adding me to the group. Rod Dorsey said that he chooses Johnny football. Johnny would be under the most pressure in said situation, yet he'd be the most prone to turn things around immediately. Interesting post, and I don't know if that post really sinks in with you folks, because he says Johnny would be under the most pressure. And that's another thing about the Texans, my Clowney argument. If you take Clowney, Clowney's not the guy. This is J.J. Watt's defense, if not J.J. Watt's football team. Clowney wouldn't have to be the guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not mentally, not production-wise. He doesn't have to. Mario came in, was expected to be the Texans' best defensive player, and he was. Still wasn't good enough for people.
Right.
Clowney's not in that circumstance. Mario never played with a guy like J.J. Watt that had that type of respect and ability on the field, other than the year they played together. There's a couple of years they played together at the end of Mario's tenure here, to be correct with that. But then he says, but he's the most equipped, to handle the situation and turn around immediately. Obviously, Rod has confidence in that Johnny Manziel bravado. You know what I mean? He believes in that, and that's okay. I'm okay with people that believe and bought into Johnny Manziel. I enjoy watching him play football. I didn't go out of my way to DVR A&M games because I didn't like Johnny football. You know what I mean? But when you start talking about who do you draft first overall, that's a different argument for me. Now, Mike Yarbrough, this is in the Let's Talk Texans Facebook group. Mike had a long, and I don't know that I'm gonna be able to read all of this, but I may, because it's such a good post. Manziel, because I believe he chooses Manziel because I believe he does have the mental grit, toughness, and resilience. Even though Johnny has enjoyed a lot of success with his team as a whole, record-wise, had a rough couple of years in the SEC. Now, he what he means by that, obviously A&M had good records over those years, but they didn't get a championship. They didn't get things done at the highest level. Regardless of the scoreboard and the record, Johnny proved he could return on the field even when he was injured, and at times glaring example. No, he says a glaring example of this. I'm kind of skimming through it, folks. He showed on the field leadership in that comeback victory over Duke. Biggest comeback in A&M history. Bortles and Bridgewater have weathered storms as well, he says, such as Bortles in the upset victory over Baylor. I guess that was an upset. I know it was in Vegas, but I don't know. I thought that was a huge upset. And Bridgewater, when coming off the bench, when he got injured in that Rutgers game, which was a classic performance for him. He showed a lot of toughness. And when I talk about Teddy Bridgewater's toughness, that's the game that I point to, and that's kind of benchmarked in my mind. And our good friend John Harris really made me think about in different terms. So, yeah, we definitely appreciate that comment from Mike Yarbrough in the Let's Talk Texans Facebook group. And Bernard J. Evans says, good question. He says, I can't answer that question because I don't know these young men. But let me go at answering your question this way. From what they have shown us thus far, Blake Bortles, nothing outstanding did as expected. Didn't attempt to give excuses for shortfalls. Theodore Teddy Bridgewater, he calls him Theodore Teddy Bridgewater, gave excuses as to why he didn't perform as expected. Still could be productive in the league, but gave me concern, I think he meant to say, as to the ability to improve consistently. Johnny Football Manziel has the flair and showmanship and attitude, but how will he handle being the prey of NFL big defensive hunters, meaning guys like the Javion Clowney, 6'6" monsters, Mario Williams, 6'6" monsters,
J.J. Watt,
J.J. Watt, a 6'5" monster. Does his frame have the ability to heal as well as build from the punishment he will undergo? Nothing in that statement that we probably haven't heard, but I think he did a good job of kind of covering the gambit of concerns about Manziel and did it in an eloquent manner, and we appreciate that comment from Bernard J. Evans. Just a few comments. We got a lot of them. We can't read them all, but what we will do is when we get these comments in from you folks, we will come back and I made note of what group you were in, and we will post it in that group as we try to post this stuff when Richard Walker gets it all edited and we get it up. So definitely we'll post these comments for you folks, and you'll be able to see us talk about your comments when you participate in the show, because we appreciate that. And let me be honest in saying too, we did put this out on Twitter. We got responses on Twitter, but I did focus on those responses that came in from Facebook, but we haven't forgot about the people on Twitter, and we'll definitely be looking that direction too, to show you folks some love for showing us some love. I tell you what we're going to do in the last segment of the show. We are going to address the Rockets. Got to talk a little NBA, man. LeBron and the Heat getting down with Indiana last night, taking care of business in Miami, getting that victory over the Pacers. We'll talk a little bit about that with Angelo Lawford. We'll talk about the Rockets and their struggles of late. And who knows? We got a couple other things out there. We might even touch on Colin Kaepernick and that awesome media source, TMZ. High, upstanding people. Those people at TMZ represent the highest in integrity and dignity in reporting in the media. Those people at TMZ are awesome. I would recommend that Michael O. Smith go online right now and apply for a job with TMZ. Some kind of way I just figure y'all kind of deserve each other, you know what I mean? It'll work. It'll work for TMZ, it'll work for Michael O. Smith, and most of all, it'll work for Craig Shelton and HoustonMediaWatch.com. We'll be right back.